All right, everyone. Welcome to the new student orientation. I know a decent percentage of you are fairly new to the program, so that's what this is about, just to kind of give you a little perspective on how to proceed through the program, who to contact if you have issues, where to find resources, things like that. Okay, so that's what we're going to key in on. All right, so just to give you a little bit of background about myself, my name is Tristan Roberts. I am a former LearnKey student. I'm a veteran. I went through this program back in 2013, graduated in summer of 2014. And I've been working for LearnKey ever since. Okay, so here's some of the certs that I got. I didn't have much time when I went through this program. I had about 10 months. And so I just tried to squeeze in as many certs as I could before I ran out of time. So these are the ones I was able to squeeze out. Over the time, I got some knowledge in some other areas, but these are the main ones. So, all right. And again, I started working for LearnKey in August 2014, right after I graduated. Put me technically, or actually, I'm in a tech support role, and that's where I fall in, but I'm more of a student guide. I spend a lot more of my time working with students, helping them prepare for these exams, giving them resources and strategies, best practices, things like that. So that's what the majority of my time is. And then I also do tech support too. So some of you will call in the tech support and you'll recognize my voice. But those are the main things I do. I've also done some other things. I've done some technical writing for the A+ course. I help write some of the questions that we have in our post assessments and some things like that. And I also help make a lot of changes to the program once I was hired. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. So, all right. I was in the Navy. I was actually a Greenside Corpsman, so I spent the majority of my enlistment with the Marines, and that's about it. I won't go too much into the background, but I am a veteran. I did go through this program using Voc Rehab, so I can give you guys some pretty good tips and ideas about how to use the program to your advantage. All right. Moving forward, my overall impression of this program after I was done is definitely not for everyone. You have to be pretty resilient. You have to be disciplined. There's someone that has to be able to set aside time to put into it, and you definitely have to stick to it. Okay, it's not something that's going to come easy for some of us, especially if you're new to the field. It may take a little extra effort. Definitely have to be able to learn outside of a classroom, right? This is online learning, so it's not the traditional way of learning, and really that's not really going to help you that much anyway. The best way to learn about this stuff is to jump in and play. You don't need a classroom for that. You just need kind of a computer or something that you can use to help you get comfortable with the concepts and things like that. So you definitely have to be able to learn outside of a classroom. I try to make these group sessions as classroom-like as possible. We have a lot of open discussions, and we share information and things like that. So it's a good place to come, especially if you're getting ready to take an exam. At the very least, you can ask questions and things like that. Because most of the students that are in these group sessions have either taken the courses that you're going to be taking, or they're studying for the same courses as you at the same time. So it's a good place to kind of network and find out what other people are doing. I kind of mentioned this. You have to set time aside. For me, it was a little easier because I didn't have much going on at the time. I wasn't working. My daughter was in school half the day, right? So I kind of had the time. I didn't have to set the time aside. It was already there. You know, I just have to take advantage of it. Some of us are different, right? Some of us are working and, you know, we have a lot of stuff going on. And in those cases, you have to make sure that you set that time aside, or it just makes, you know, learning this stuff that much harder. Okay. And then, yeah, it's, you know, for some of us, it's going to take a little extra effort, right? And that was kind of the case for me. The resources that I was provided at the time weren't necessarily enough to get me as prepared as possible. So I did have to put in a little extra effort, and, you know, I had to kind of seek out extra resources to make sure that I was picking up the stuff that I needed to pick up. So just kind of take note of that. Some of you that have been in the field for a while, maybe you have some experience, some prior experience. You know, those are the people that probably, you know, won't take that much extra effort because of stuff that they're used to. But the majority of us, yeah. So just kind of keep that in mind. So when I went through the program, just to give you kind of a brief outlook on how things have changed. You know, one, there was no student interaction. So I was pretty much on an island. You know, we didn't have any group sessions. We didn't have any forums or any place to communicate. I didn't have anyone to ask questions to. So that's a huge advantage that you all have. You know, we have platforms set up now to where you can interact with other students in the program. So no forum. Obviously, I'm going to walk you through the forum a little bit later, but, you know, this is one of the best resources that we have now. And there's still a lot of people that aren't taking advantage of it. Yeah, no group sessions, and no additional resources or support, right? And this was a huge handicap, you know, not having an avenue to additional resources. It was pretty much, they had, you know, the resources that they provided, which wasn't much, and, you know, you were expected to have success based off of, you know, just using those resources. And in the real world, especially when it comes to the CompTIA exams, you know, with Microsoft, you may be able to get away with the resources that we have, but when it comes to CompTIA, there's a whole world of resources, and you should keep your mind open to all of them. So we'll talk a little bit about some of those a little bit later. All right, so it was kind of difficult back then to progress, and that's why we changed a lot of things. So the purpose of this session is basically just to give you a sense of direction, to give you an idea of you know, what's the best way to kind of go through this program and to prepare yourself for each phase of your learning process, right? So instead of you just kind of, you know, grasping at thin air, you know, we have a little bit of a structure here, and I'm gonna try to point that out to you. Okay. Show you some best practices, right? Basically, that's it. We're just gonna kind of help you avoid those same mistakes that I made when I didn't have any student interaction. Okay. Know what resources are available and where to find them, right? Very important when it comes to this program, because like I said, sometimes the stuff that's provided to you isn't enough, and you have to go out and find some additional stuff. So I'm gonna help you know, help you get a better idea of where to find that stuff. All right. Know who to contact if you have questions and where to go for answers, definitely. Okay, very important. So that's another thing that we didn't really have back when I went through the program. I remember when I failed my first exam, I asked a question. I guess it was too technical to my vet rep at the time. They had no clue what to tell me. He just kind of ignored me and let me figure it out for myself. So it's definitely good to know who to contact for the questions that you have and where to go for answers. Okay. Those are the main things that we want to cover. So, okay, so I'm going to start with the do's of the program. Right, here's some of the important things that you want to make sure that you do as you're progressing. Okay, number one is know what's expected of you, and when I say that, that's why I kind of put this in parentheses. I'm talking about the objectives. Um, One of the biggest mistakes that I made going through the program was I went into my first exam, well, my first A+ exam, without having looked at the objectives, not even once. I did not look at the objectives. And as a result, I went in, and by the fourth or fifth question, I assumed I was taking the wrong exam, right? And it wasn't that that it was that hard or anything like that, but it was the fact that I didn't look at the objectives, so I had no idea what to expect. I was just kind of taking a shot in the dark. And I spent probably close to 6 weeks preparing for that first exam. And I probably would only needed half of that if I would have just paid attention to the objectives. I wasted a lot of time because I didn't look at the objectives, and it sucked. It was a very long exam, and I knew I failed. Way before I even got to the end, and I knew I didn't pass that exam. I was just totally unprepared. So what I mean by know what's expected of you is before you go take an exam, before you even start studying, you should find the objective set for that exam. That way, as you're learning and you're training, one, you know what it is that you're supposed to be learning. Two, you can make sure that what you're learning is there. Three, if there's anything on the objectives that you haven't learned, you know that you need to go research that so you don't get caught off guard. That's why it's important to find the objectives. So I'll show you how to find those in just a second. All right. Next, set time aside for study. I mentioned this a little earlier. It's very important because, some of this stuff, you may be able to pick up. A lot of it is, especially when it comes to CompTIA, it's not enough to know the information. You have to be able to apply it. You have to be able to comprehend what they're looking for. Okay, so it's very important. It's about kind of analyzing, troubleshooting, interpreting. All of that is important when it comes to the CompTIA exams. If you're missing any one of those, it just becomes that much harder. So the time is definitely important. That you set that aside and that you use it. Okay. It's important to key in on the resources that fit your learning style. So like I mentioned, you're going to get some provided to you through the program. So an example of that would be Online Expert. For some of you that have moved past the Online Expert point and maybe you're in G-Metrics now, that's another one that's provided to you. Now I can tell you this: when it comes to the Microsoft exams, G-Metrics is pretty much the best learning tool that you're going to get, and that's because one is hands-on. Two, it looks exactly like the actual exam. So when you take the exam, it's going to feel just like G-Metrics. So that's a great asset when it comes to preparing for that exam. As you move forward and you get into some of the CompTIA stuff or the Cisco stuff, the resources aren't so much like the actual exam. So it's kind of up to you to seek out the resources that work for you and stick with those. And what I mean is, if you're someone that learns from reading, make sure you spend a lot of time in that book. If you're someone that's like me, you're a hands-on learner. If you can do it, you can learn it. That's when you want to have things that you can play with. Like I had a computer that I wasn't worried about breaking. So when I was going through A+, I used that as my guinea pig to help me learn, because I learn way more from doing than I do from reading in a book. So that's what I mean by that. Use the resources, key in on those resources that fit your learning style, and you'll get the best results out of that. Okay. Be resourceful. What that means is, don't rely on one or two resources. Don't think that if you just use Online Expert and CertMaster that you're going to be ready to take the exam. That's what we gave you. That's what you need to use, because that's another huge mistake that I made the first time. Was I just relied on the stuff that they gave me, and I didn't really make sure that I didn't go through the objectives to make sure that I understood everything fully. So, after my first failure, I had to go back to the drawing board and I had to go find other resources. They weren't provided for me. I had to go to the internet and find them. And and so sometimes, you have to do that. You just have to find the resources that work for you, and then if the ones that you have aren't working, then find other ones, because there's thousands of them. You just have to know where to look. Some of them free, some of them not. But we'll talk about how you can, hopefully you can get the VA to front the bill on some of this stuff, if you find that you need some extra stuff. Okay. And then, attend a group session if you can. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the times, maybe let's say that you're going to take your word exam, next week or something like that. If you attend a group session before the word exam, maybe there's someone in there that just took the exam. And a lot of the times in the group sessions, I'll give someone the floor for about 5 or 10 minutes and let them just give their recap of a recent exam that they took. So a lot of the times you can get good information on, what the exam is like, what to be prepared for, what to look out for, do's and don'ts and things like that. You can get a lot of that information from other students. So that's why I say attend a group session if you can. I know not everyone can, but all right. Now let's go to the don'ts. All right. Don't go into any exam unnecessarily prepared. Okay. This is basically the total opposite of what I was saying on the last slide. This is what I did my first time, and I know that there's been a ton of other students that have done the same thing. Right? I talked to a student this morning that did the same thing multiple times. Sometimes if you don't talk to someone, you just assume that, you can get through it on your own. You make a lot of unnecessary mistakes that could be easily avoided. I'll give you an example of one. One of the huge mistakes that I made on my first A+ exam was, for those of you that don't know, there's two parts to each CompTIA exam. The first part is what they call performance-based questions. And for the most part, these are, they give you a task or something that you have to do, right? And then the rest of the exam is multiple choice. Multiple choice section is about 90% of the exam. So the first few questions are performance-based, and then the rest of the exam is multiple choice. Well, the mistake that I made was, instead of just skipping past those initial questions and gaining my momentum in the multiple choice section, I just sat there and tried to figure the stuff out, and I wasted a lot of time trying to figure out stuff that I didn't really know the answer to. And so one of the things that you want to make sure that you don't do is you don't want to spend too much time on any one question, because you will run out of time. Okay. So that's a huge mistake that I made the first time, and I don't do that anymore. But it was a good lesson learned. So basically, don't go into any exam unnecessarily prepared. If you haven't looked at the objectives, if you haven't, maximized your resources, if you haven't talked to someone that's taken that exam recently, you're kind of setting yourself up to catch rude awakenings. So, get whatever information that you can before you go take the exam to avoid getting caught off guard, because it's not a good feeling. All right. Don't fail to meet your time obligation. And what I mean by that is the majority of students are going full-time in our program, I assume. Full-time means 20 hours. Okay, so that means that you have to set aside 20 hours a week, right? It's the equivalent of a part-time job, right? You just have to put in a few hours a day, and that's how you make sure that you don't get your stipend cut. Now, I know there's probably some students here that aren't veterans, and so they're not getting that monthly stipend, so that doesn't really apply to you. But at the very least, you want to make sure that you're putting in the time that you need, and that way you don't have any hiccups when it comes to your stipend, because I know some of us are dependent on that, right? So the last thing that you want to do is do anything to get that cut. So no matter what, put in your 20, and some of us are gonna have to put in extra, and that's fine. But as long as you put in your 20, you don't have to worry about getting your stipend cut. It happened to me once. It wasn't my fault. It was a typo or something. But it kind of sucks when you're dependent on that money to be there and it's not. So it's the best way to make sure that it doesn't get cut. Don't worry about any exam except the current one. And what I mean by that is, sometimes we get ahead of ourselves. We'll be thinking about the end result. We'll be on A+ and we'll be asking questions about like the CISSP or Cisco. It's better, from experience, it's better to key in on one exam at a time, because they all have their different different objective sets, and they're all equally as difficult, just depending on your experience. So, one of the most frequent questions I get asked is about A+. Some people will say, hey, which exam is harder, the 901 or the 902? And I always tell people it really depends on your knowledge set. They're both equally as difficult. If you're a newcomer, then they'll both be as equally as difficult, right? If you're someone that's been in the field before, and let's say maybe you're comfortable with hardware, you're comfortable with components, right? The 901 is probably going to be a little bit easier to you because that's a hardware exam. And vice versa, if you're someone that's more comfortable with the software aspect, the 902 may be a little bit more easier. But it really just depends on your knowledge set and where you are. Okay. But yeah, you always want to just kind of key in on one exam at a time, and then that way, you don't get overwhelmed with information and get confused about what you're supposed to be retaining, right? So, forget, I need to change that around. This is something I was supposed to take out and I didn't. All right. It says, don't memorize practice exam questions. Okay, so I just want to clarify a bit. It's okay to memorize practice exam questions if you're talking about Microsoft exams. Okay, if you're working on Word, if you're working on Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, I don't think anyone does Access. No one's really into the database thing, but those practice questions that you get in G-Metrics, it's okay to memorize those because it's kind of like muscle memory. If you get asked to do the same task on the actual exam, you'll know how to do it, right? Those questions are more, they're more straight to the point. They're more matter of fact, okay? When I put this down here, I was thinking more in lines of CompTIA. Okay, CompTIA, their questions aren't matter of fact at all. They're more scenario based. They put you in a situation and they want you to kind of analyze and think your way through it. Okay, so if you're taking CertMaster, for example, it's one of the testing engines that we use. If you're taking CertMaster and you're memorizing all those questions, what's going to happen is, you're going to go to take the actual exam. You're not going to see any of those questions. And then, you're going to start questioning whether CertMaster was a good resource or not. And the answer is it is. But they don't ask the same type of questions. CertMaster asks you more matter-of-fact type questions. And when you take the exam, they're going to throw you in a scenario and ask you to figure it out. So a lot of those matter-of-fact questions don't really help with that. You have to develop analytical skills for that, analytical and troubleshooting and things like that. And that's stuff that you only get from doing. So that's why I put this down here. You don't want to memorize those practice questions. G-Metrics is fine. Because a lot of times you're going to be doing a lot of the same task anyway. So I'll have to clarify that for next time. Don't freak out if you fail an exam, okay? I don't know. I've been with LearnKey for, I don't know, since 2014. Wow, it's been that long already. I've been around for a while, let's just say that. And I can't think of anyone who's just breezed through the program, including myself. I had pretty decent success in the time that I had. But you know, I had some struggles as well. I don't know anyone who's able to just breeze through this program and just ace all of these exams. So if you expect that from yourself, you're putting too much pressure on yourself. Okay. Just about everyone's failed an exam. I know some people that have failed 3 and 4, and they finally knock it out on the 5th try. Okay, so sometimes you have to be resilient, and you know, you have to not take it so personal, because these exams, especially the CompTIA ones, they're not designed for beginners. All right, I'll give you a look at the objectives in a bit after we're done with this, but and you'll see, you know, the exams, they're not designed for beginners. They're designed for people that have been in the field. So the majority of us, there's at least one exam where you're going to struggle. Okay, don't freak out. Many have failed before you and many have continued on and knocked those out, including myself. So it's not a big deal to fail an exam. What you don't want to do is you don't want to freak yourself out and get discouraged and looking for a way out. You know, you just want to keep going. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, so some of the resources that we have. All right, our student forum. So let me give you a brief look at our student forum. And for those of you that came in a little late, I put a link to this in the chat box. So if you scroll up, you should see it. But so here's what our forum looks like. You know, it's nothing too fancy. This is our calendar right here, and this has all of our group sessions in it. So this is all the sessions for the month of May. And you can see we have some weeks where there's a session every day, right? So there's going to be a Monday session, a Tuesday, and a Thursday session every day, or every week, I'm sorry. At the very least, unless someone's out. Okay. Every other Wednesday, our senior IT instructor, most of you, if you've taken any of our courses, if you've signed into Online Expert, you've probably seen him already, Jason Manabog. He is our senior IT instructor. He authors just about all of the courses that you all will be taking. And there's some other ones that he doesn't, but you know, for the most part, he's been with us for about 2 years now, and he authors the majority of our courses. So he opens up an hour for you every other Wednesday. It's an evening session, so for those of you that work and you can't make the morning sessions, he has a session for you. He holds it at about 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock Eastern, every other Wednesday, right? So if you're interested in attending those, you can just click on the calendar, and it will give you all the information that you need to get into the sessions. It gives you a brief description of the session, and then has the link to join it here. So, all right. So our calendar has all of our group sessions in it, lets you know what it's about, when it will be, and things like that. And then every second and fourth Friday of the month, we have a Network Plus session where we basically just key in on Net Plus, and we talk about the objectives and how to prepare for the exam, what you're going to see, things like that. Okay, so the next one is actually going to be tomorrow because I moved this one down here. But okay, and then the other thing we have here, just to give you guys an idea, it's our categories. There's a lot of stuff in here that is very helpful. Okay, so there's a team viewer option here, and what this does is it allows you to connect with other students 24/7, right? So we have these sessions scheduled, but you can all carry your own sessions if you want to. So you just click here, click on the team viewer part, and here. So you're going to want to go back to the beginning. Go back to the first page. Okay, so here's the link. Here's the instructions on how to download it. So just make sure you follow the instructions so you don't get shut out. Definitely want to use it for personal use. If you put for business, it's going to shut you out after 30 days. So, but this is an awesome option. Anthony, yeah, no worries. I got your name down, so. Okay, so this is a good way to connect with other students. You can remote into other students' computers. You can share files. You can just use the chat function if you want, and just ask questions and things like that. So that's one of the options that you have. Let's see what else do we have down here. Exam recaps. So students go in to take exams, and once they're done, they come in here and they give a brief recap of their experience, right? So this is a good place to visit if you're getting ready to take an exam and you just want to get an idea of what it was like or someone else's experience and things like that. Okay, most of the exams are covered here. Microsoft, CompTIA, Cisco, everything except the more advanced exams like the CASP or CISSP, things like that. Not many students are taking those. So, all right, great section to visit. We have the new student zone. Okay, so this is a good place for the newer students, the ones that couldn't, say someone couldn't make this session here, where you can come in here and catch a replay of the orientation. There's an online expert overview here. So for those of you that are just getting started, this is a brief tutorial on how to use online expert to your advantage, shortcuts and things like that. And this is a guide that kind of walks you through how to use the objectives to prepare for each exam, right? So this is a really good one to watch. Okay. From time to time, I'll just do some FYI videos and throw them in here for the newer students. Okay. Tutor replays, right? We have some of these tutor sessions or these group sessions we record, and this is a good place to come and you can kind of get a recap of what we talked about and things like that. So, if you're interested in looking at some of the older sessions, some of these are pretty old, but the information is still pertinent. So you can just look at the brief description of, here's a subnetting one, for example, right? Subnetting is one of the topics that a lot of people get confused on. So, you can come in here and watch a breakdown of, how to subnet and things like that. So, all right, that's another good section. Facebook group. For those of you that use Facebook, we have a group that's exclusive to veterans in our program. So if you want, you can go ahead and click on that. It's another great place to interact with other students, ask questions and things like that, get updates. Most of my updates that I give, I usually do through this Facebook group. So, all right, the career readiness zone. This is for kind of the latter part of your program. Once you've gone through, you've got a decent amount of certs. A lot of people start looking at, updating their resumes, getting them out there, putting them in the right places, right? So this is where we do our, actually, this is where I put the replays from our job readiness sessions. So something that I forgot to mention in the calendar is every third Tuesday of the month is our job readiness Tuesday. And we talk about, resumes and strategies, do's and don'ts, things like that, how to get ready to find you a decent position. And we have a guest speaker, our job readiness manager. Her name is Beth Charamello. She comes in and she just kind of gives us an update and things like that on who's hiring vets, what certs they're looking for, interview techniques. So here's some of the replays. This is a replay from a couple months ago. This is a replay from earlier this month, because we just started doing this again. So these are good sessions to watch. So a lot of good information is exchanged here. So, okay, that's just some of the stuff. And then down here we have some additional resources. So for those of you that, maybe you're struggling and you need some extra resources, there's a lot of stuff in here that students put just to kind of help you. So this one kind of covers the OSI model, ports and protocols, right? The objectives, are in here. Study resources. So I'll give you a quick idea. So for someone taking Net Plus, it would behoove you to get this study guide here. It kind of pretty much just walks you through everything. You can purchase these from Professor Messer's page if you want, but I've already done that, and I posted them in here for your convenience, so you don't have to. And you can just kind of get a look. It has a lot of diagrams, definitions, and things and information that'll help you get prepared for this exam. So I recommend these study guides to anyone taking any CompTIA exams. It will help you tons. Okay, let's get out of here real quick. And then, you know, there's other sections in here. There's the A+ section, there's security, CCNA, right, Cisco, there's the Microsoft section. So just kind of find what it is that you're working on and see what resources are available to you. And if you're someone that knows of resources or has helpful links or things like that, feel free to come in here and post them. That's kind of what we're looking for. We just want a place where we can share resources and help each other out. So that's what this forum is about. Okay, so the main sections are going to be your calendar, right? If you're looking for the group sessions, or the categories if you're looking for additional resources or extra help from other students. All right, that's going to be your student form. If you have any questions about that, just let me know and I'll make sure I answer those. Okay, so most of those I think I covered. Student Resource Center. Let me come back. Okay, so our Student Resource Center is, actually, let me do it this way. It's just a place where it has some additional resources. So what you want to do is you want to go down to Veteran Services, and then you got your Job Ready Resource Center, you got your Student Resource Center, and then this is a link that goes to the forums, goes straight to the forums. So, and you can see here, this is a place that has like some additional practice labs and things to kind of test your knowledge. So if you're working on A+, you can get there's some extra additional A+ labs here, network as well, and some Cisco stuff. It's just another place to find some helpful stuff for you, okay? Let's see, what else do we have here? Facebook forum, I showed you how to get there. The group sessions, talked about that. Google. Google is my best friend. From the time that I was in the program, anytime that I came across something that I didn't fully understand or I didn't understand enough, I always went to Google. It's a gateway to all of the other resources, free and paid on the net. But it's something that I still use to this day. When you get troubleshooting stuff, and some of it some of it you don't. But there's information on everything. So whenever I come across something that I don't know, I always Google it. And if the answer's not there, there's a path to the answer. You just got to kind of find it. So that's why I put Google under resources. Very important to know how to use a search engine. It doesn't have to be Google. Some people like Bing, My Search, whichever search engine you like, just get familiar with it. Career Services Center. Let's see here. I'm assuming that's this right here. It's the Job Ready Center, right? So the Job Ready team this is Beth right here, and she comes in. She's the one that comes into our sessions every third Tuesday, and she just gives great information on how to prepare your resume, how to get ready for an interview, which questions to avoid, and things like that. A lot of good information. So if you can attend those, I would definitely recommend it. If you can't, then just go to the Job Readiness Zone and you can watch a replay. This is Bo here. He's going to be some of your vet reps or for some of you, he's going to be your vet rep. I'm not sure if anyone here has him or not, but, and then this is Grace. She's our other tutor, and she focuses primarily on Microsoft Office. So for those of you that are just getting started, every Monday is Microsoft Monday, and that's where you want to spend the majority of your time. I mean, obviously you can come in the Tuesday and the Thursday sessions as well, but we kind of key in more on the CompTIA exams, on the Cisco exams, and some of the other stuff, the other more technical stuff. So as when you're getting started, you want to kind of key in on these Microsoft Office sessions, and then if you have other questions, I mean, obviously you can jump in and listen. I don't turn people away. So just because you're not taking those exams yet, some people like to foreshadow and get an idea of what they're going to be seeing. So anyway, here's your job readiness team. They're all great people, and actually. Grace is a veteran. She went through the program as well. I think she got hired on about a year after me, a year or so. And Beth is also a veteran. She didn't go through the program, but she was in the Air Force, I believe, and she's been helping get veterans jobs for a long time. So, okay. What else do we have here? How much time? Oh, wow, we're almost out of time. Okay, let me skip through here. Okay, so when it comes to who to know, we just kind of talked about all of us, right? You just saw a picture. Here's our extensions, our email addresses. Make sure you get those if you need them. And here's the areas that we primarily help people with, okay? Anything else will have to go through Jason. So let's say like you're working on a server course or something like that. I try to stay away from giving advice on courses I haven't taken. And so that's when you want to try to attend those Wednesday sessions if you can, because Jason has pretty much all the answers that we don't. So he's a really smart guy. All right, so also, one thing that I didn't add here, for those of you that are veterans and taking this program through Voc Rehab, if there is anything that you need, okay, outside of what's already been provided to you, always try to get it through your Voc Rehab counselor first, okay? Now, this is a luck of the draw type of deal. When I went through the program, I didn't have any problems. If I ever needed something, all I had to do was convince my Voc Rehab counselor that it would help me, and they provided it for me, okay? So that's really all you have to do. But we have, there's stuff that you're provided with that comes with the program, and then obviously there's other stuff, right? Some of it's free. Most of the good resources are going to cost a little bit of money. So, but depending on whether you have it to front or not, sometimes you can go and purchase something and have the VA reimburse you, or, sometimes they'll just go ahead and flip the bill. But, the main thing is you have to convince them that it's going to, whatever you're asking for is going to benefit you. It's going to help you get through, it's going to help you get through this program, right? If you can convince them of that, then 9 times out of 10, they'll get it for you. Some of you are going to have a Voc Rehab counselor that's strictly by the book, and they want to know, they're not going to want to give you something unless all the other students have it as well. And it sucks, it's a luck of the draw type of thing. But if you can convince them that it's going to help you, then, they'll get it for you. So that's been my experience anyway. Okay, so Voc Rehab counselor, that's another person that I should put down here under who to know. Sometimes you can go through your vet rep, I'll give you an example, right? So for anyone that's going to be taking A+, I highly recommend getting a computer that you can take apart and don't have to worry about breaking. So you can just use it to study with, right? To get used to the components and things, okay? Some of us have computers laying around, others don't. Well, we have a partnership with a warehouse that has computers just laying around, but they're not free. So I highly recommend that once you get to that phase where you're taking A+, I recommend you trying to get your Voc Rehab counselor to purchase that package for you, right? It's real easy to convince them that this will help you. right? It's not hard at all. They just have to be willing to front the bill. And so, that's an example. And then some of them are, like software resources, like the hands-on simulator, right? That's not something that's free, but it will help you tons. It just gives you it gives you sort of a practice. It gives you practice for some of the stuff that you're going to be seeing on the exam. So, okay. Other helpful tips. All right, we already talked about being resourceful, right? And the most valuable resource is the internet, right? It's the gateway to just about any piece of information that you need. You just need to know how to use the search engine, and you can find out anything. Okay. Be proactive about your exam. So what I mean is, don't wait until you go take the exam and you fail it to go look at the objectives like I did the first time, right? Get a good understanding about what's going to be expected of you, right? That way you can kind of better guide your study habits and the things that you key in on, right? Know what it is that you need to know how to do. And that way, you kind of set yourself up for success instead of failure. Take breaks when you need to. I had to do it often. There were times where I was listening to lectures and I looked up and noticed that I don't remember anything. I didn't hear anything for the last 10 minutes, right? That's when it's time to take a break. Don't burn your brain out doing this stuff, just kind of take it in as you can and don't worry about taking breaks. Jason says it all the time. The worst time to study is when you don't feel like it, because you're not going to retain anything. You're just wasting your time. So, all right. Talk to others, right, that have taken the exams that you're trying to pass. That's something that I wish I was able to do when I went through the program. I had to find out everything the hard way, right? I had to take a lot of leaps of faith and just kind of depend on what I was seeing in the objectives and what I was learning, right? But I didn't learn any habits or anything from anyone else because we didn't have any communication. So that's what the group sessions are for, just come, and sometimes some people just hang out and listen. Others have a lot to say, but there's always good information exchanged. So talking to others is good. And very important, I mentioned this a little earlier, but identify the resources that speak loudest to your learning style, which means if you're a reader, then read. If you're a doer, find the resources that let you practice, right? If you learn from lecturing and taking notes, and do whatever it is that helps you the best. That's how you set yourself up for success. All right. Don't worry about the other resources that are kind of just there. Some of them are necessary, like Online Expert is a necessary evil. You have to go through it, right, to get certified. Before anyone's going to give you a voucher, they need to know that you can pass Online Expert. Okay, so some of the stuff you have to use. Once you get past the stuff that you have to use, focus on the stuff that fits your learning style the best. All right, that's it. Now, I guess I kind of drug it out a little bit with the explanations, but that's it for the orientation. Hopefully, I gave you guys a better idea of how to prepare. Are there any questions that you guys have? Anything I didn't explain? Now's the time. This is the last one until next Thursday. I mean, the end of next month. So, okay. You sure? No questions? All righty.
Yeah, T, just one question on that package. Right now, I'm installing the Word programs. Can I order that package for those computers through my rep now, so that I can have it when I start the hands-on?
You can give it a try. Your voc rehab counselor, more than likely, they may tell you, wait till you get there. If you're still working on Marcus' Office, you have what you need, right? Mm-hmm. So, but it can't hurt to ask. The worst is they're going to tell you is no, wait, right? So, Yeah, it's totally up to you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Does anyone need me to put that contact list up again, or does everyone have the extensions and the email addresses? Okay. Yeah, I know it's kind of, at first, for most of you, it's a little overwhelming, just getting thrown in the program without having an idea of what to expect. That's how it was for me as well. So that's why we started doing these, just to give you a better idea. Let's see. Oh, Richard Lewis. Gotcha. Yeah, no problem, Richard. Okay.
So Trist, oh, someone else talking.
No, go ahead.
So we can, I mean, I'll have to hunt and peck around to figure out the website where the stuff's at, but we can get a copy of your presentation. It's posted out there somewhere, right?
This presentation that we're doing right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm recording it right now.
No, I'm talking about the slides.
Oh, the actual PowerPoint. Yeah, you know what? I can post that, and I'll post it under the new student zone.
That'd be good, because that way we can just go look up the the phone number and stuff pretty easy.
Right. Yeah, no problem. I'll do that. Any other questions?
No.
All righty. Well, I have a few questions. I have a couple students whose names or whose last names aren't showing up, so I need to get those. Darwin, I'm not seeing your last name.
It's Webster.
Webster. Okay. Okay. Yeah, actually, it is showing up. You're showing up twice.
Oh, because I got two. I'm looking at an iPad and a PC.
Gotcha. Derek McClure. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad I saw that. Alrighty. And then Robert, I'm not seeing your last name either.
Oh, I just edited it so you can see it. It's Fischoff. Fischoff.
Okay, yeah, I see it now.
Okay, good.
Tristan, my name is John Harber, H-A-R-B-E-R.
Okay. Alright, looks like I'm missing someone. Okay, someone was here earlier and they took off. That was Anthony, right? Anthony Pierce. Okay. Yeah, so right now you probably don't have any questions, right? Not right after you absorb a ton of information. But just make sure that you have those email addresses and extensions for further references, because I'm pretty sure you'll have some questions later. All right. In the meantime, we're a little bit over. I'm gonna go ahead and end the session. I have I'm gonna call out the names. If you don't hear your name, just let me know.